this is where it's hard to relay when there's so much because we don't get.
They tried to make her disappear. The WNBA's hottest new name, the rookie who packed arenas, blew up TV numbers, and pulled an entire new crowd into women's basketball
season, and having an excellent passing season as well. Her assist
out of nowhere. She vanished from the lineup. No explanation, no press release, no injury update, no answers, just silence like she was never there. But two players weren't willing to let that slide. Sophie Cunningham sent the first shot across the bow, saying you don't bench your biggest star unless you're afraid of what she represents. Then Lexi Hull came right after her. If this can happen to Caitlin Clark, what do you think they'll do to the rest of us? That question landed heavy. Within hours, cameras were rolling. Within days, the clips were everywhere. And within weeks, the league's carefully polished image started to crack.
Who has captivated the entire globe. Sells out arenas everywhere she goes.
So what happens when powerful institutions feel threatened by influence they can't control, and athletes refuse to quietly fade away? This wasn't just about sitting someone on the bench. This felt like an attempt to erase her. It started with small signs. Reporters at practice noticed Caitlin Clark wasn't running with the starters. Her name wasn't even written on the rotation board. That alone sent shockwaves through the gym. Coaches brushed off questions with vague non-answers, which only made things worse. Suspicion spread fast. Social media caught fire instantly. People floated load management. Some insiders whispered about discipline. Others tossed out weak excuses. But every theory fell apart the moment you looked at the facts.
So much to this program, and they have to sit the rest of to finish their career on the bench.
Caitlin Clark hadn't broken any rules. She didn't miss practice. She didn't violate team policy. None of it made sense. And the numbers told a totally different story. She was leading her team in the stats that actually matter: points, assists, overall impact. On top of that, she was drawing more media attention than almost the entire league combined. So why would any organization sideline the one player driving historic growth? That's when the leaks began. People close to the league started quietly talking about tension between Clark and top officials. Her straight-shooting post-game interviews apparently rubbed the wrong people the wrong way. Her massive social media reach became something executives couldn't control or filter. She wasn't just an athlete anymore. It
going toe-to-toe with the biggest women's basketball stars on the biggest stage.
Turned into a movement, a voice, a brand. Someone with opinions about how women's basketball should actually look, sound, and feel to real fans. And then came the most explosive rumor of all. Clark allegedly challenged league marketing decisions behind closed doors, calling them out of touch and tone-deaf. Less than 2 days later, her minutes dropped. Within 3 days, she was stuck on the bench. And then she was gone. No press conference. No media access. No team statement. Just cold, deliberate silence. Like they were trying to kill her momentum before it turned into something they couldn't stop.
Because I think we are exhausted, when it's blow after blow, a whole bunch of other things going on.
The league clearly thought this would fade away. They were wrong. Fans didn't just notice, they mobilized. Hashtags flooded timelines asking where Caitlin was. Thousands demanded answers. Comment sections turned into full-blown protests, tearing apart every league decision. Even NBA players weighed in, calling the situation shady and disrespectful to the game. And every hour the league stayed quiet only poured fuel on the fire. Each unanswered question felt like more proof something ugly was happening behind closed doors.
We obviously are playing with nothing to lose. We're playing with a lot of joy, a lot of love for each other, and I think
at that point, this wasn't just about silence. It was about actively silencing someone. And that's what pushed Sophie Cunningham past the line of staying quiet. She didn't wait for approval. While reporters chased rumors and fans flooded inboxes with anger, Sophie stepped straight to the post-game mic. She skipped the scripted answers, ignored the corporate filter, and dropped one sentence that spread faster than anything the PR team could contain. You don't sideline your biggest star unless you're scared of her power. That line detonated across the internet, and the clip went viral in minutes. Sports media couldn't avoid the issue anymore. Commentators who had been dancing around it suddenly had to ask the uncomfortable questions. Everyone was already thinking. And Sophie wasn't finished. She kept talking. On her podcast, she went even deeper, laying out what she believed was really happening inside team meetings. She openly challenged leadership, saying the quiet part out loud while most players were still holding their tongues. Sophie made it clear she didn't believe Caitlin Clark was benched for basketball reasons. She said Clark was sidelined because her influence scared people who preferred stars they could control instead of voices they couldn't. She accused the league of playing political games with player careers and blasted executives for choosing control over real progress. She called out a culture that punishes excellence the moment it comes with opinions. Everyone understood the risk. Speaking this openly against league power can end careers fast. Endorsements vanish. Playing time disappears. Doors quietly close. The invisible networks that decide who gets opportunities can turn on you overnight. Sophie knew all of that and spoke anyway. She reportedly decided the truth mattered more than protecting herself. Fans reacted immediately. Hashtags didn't just trend, they multiplied. Stand with Sophie and Free Clark took over timelines side by side. What started as frustration turned into a movement almost overnight. Her courage lit a fuse the league never saw coming. And the fire kept spreading. Then, the very next day, someone else stepped forward. Lexi Hull didn't ease into it. She didn't release a polished statement or hide behind approved talking points. She walked into the press room after practice, stood in front of the cameras, and spoke straight from the heart. If Caitlin Clark can be treated like this, what do you think they'll do to the rest of us? No spin, no politeness. Just raw truth aimed at what every player had been thinking privately. That one sentence hit like an earthquake. The clip exploded, jumping way beyond WNBA circles into mainstream sports media. ESPN panels, podcasts, and independent creators all started asking the same question. What is really happening behind closed doors at the WNBA? Lexi didn't stop there. She followed that moment with a social media post that sent a shockwave straight through the fanbase. A black and white photo of her standing next to Caitlin, captioned with a single word, loyalty. That was it. Nothing else. And yet, everyone felt it. Was she calling out betrayal inside the locker room? Was the message aimed at management, teammates who stayed quiet, or a culture built on fear? Nobody knew for sure, but the timing made the meaning impossible to miss not long after. Sources said Lexi became one of the loudest voices inside team meetings. Once the controversy exploded, one leaked account claimed she directly challenged staff, asking why the only player selling out arenas was suddenly stuck on the bench. While everyone pretended nothing was wrong, then came the post that disappeared. Lexi reportedly tweeted, "If you want to build a legacy, stop silencing the ones who created it," and deleted it shortly after. Fans caught screenshots immediately. Within hours, the message was everywhere: Reddit, TikTok, fan pages, group chats. Some believed it was aimed straight at league executives. Others thought it was a shot at media voices trying to downplay the situation. But one thing was obvious. Lexi wasn't reacting by accident. She was choosing a side. Reports began circulating that she was helping spark conversations among younger players. Across multiple teams. Athletes exhausted by old politics. Players terrified of losing everything if they spoke honestly. People who wanted change but needed someone brave enough to move first. Together, Sophie and Lexi became that spark. And the league suddenly found itself staring down something it wasn't built to handle. They never saw this coming. A full-blown uprising led by their own players and powered by the fans. The moment Sophie and Lexi spoke out, supporters stopped acting like passive viewers and turned into activists overnight. Social media didn't just react. It exploded everywhere at once. Twitter threads stacked evidence of suspicious treatment. Instagram comment sections flooded official WNBA posts demanding accountability. Reddit users launched deep dive investigations, lining up inconsistencies in league explanations. TikTok creators dropped viral breakdowns, frame by frame, tearing apart every moment of the controversy. Hashtags multiplied by the hour. Justice for Clark, free Caitlin. Stop silencing stars. Each one climbing higher. As the movement grew, fans didn't just talk. They documented everything. Timelines showed exactly when Clark's minutes started shrinking. Clips resurfaced of rough physical play against her that referees ignored. Side-by-side comparisons revealed other players receiving completely different treatment. For the same situations, freeze frames captured obvious fouls that went uncalled. Stat breakdowns proved her performance justified more playing time, not less. Some fans even tracked official WNBA social accounts and noticed a sharp drop in Caitlin Clark posts. Around the time she was benched, the picture was ugly. The evidence pointed toward coordination. An organized effort to shrink her visibility before the public fully caught. Then the pressure hit where it hurts most: money leaked. Reports claimed at least 2 sponsors privately demanded answers before continuing promotional deals. Translated plainly, it meant fix this or the money walks. Jersey sales reportedly dropped hard. Ticket returns spiked for games she wasn't expected to play. Arenas that had finally been selling out saw demand fall off fast. The financial fallout arrived quicker than league leadership expected. Cities that had just started feeling real mainstream attention watched it disappear in real time. That fan uprising did what critics alone never could. It pushed the story out of sports-only coverage. Mainstream media jumped in. Cultural commentators started asking what this meant for women's sports as a whole. The conversation expanded beyond basketball into bigger questions about how institutions treat the people who actually generate their success. Through all of it, the league stayed quiet. The silence stretched on as if they believed the storm would burn itself out. That gamble failed. After nearly 2 days of non-stop pressure, the WNBA finally released an official statement. Somehow, it only made things worse. The statement didn't name Caitlin Clark. It didn't address claims of silencing players. It didn't answer the questions fans and reporters had been asking non-stop. Instead, it labeled everything a strategic rotation decision and told everyone to trust the process. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Fans read straight through the corporate wording. Reporters called it evasive. Players didn't even pretend it was convincing. The statement confirmed what many already believed. This was damage control, not honesty. That playbook might have worked years ago. Not now. In the social media era, nothing disappears. And this response collapsed almost instantly. Sophie Cunningham reacted with a single eye-roll emoji on Twitter. No caption. No explanation. Within minutes, it pulled tens of thousands of likes. The message was obvious. We see what you're doing. Lexi Hull followed by reposting a clip of the statement being read on air, adding, "So we're pretending this is normal now?" The sarcasm cut straight through the deflection. Fans boosted both reactions until they completely drowned out the original statement. The league tried to take back control of the narrative. It was already gone. Even veteran analysts who usually stay neutral couldn't stay quiet anymore. The tone shifted fast. One former WNBA player tweeted that rotation decisions don't erase an MVP-level player, without a reason, adding that something about this situation felt wrong. A lot of people agreed. The numbers backed it up. Engagement on official league posts dropped sharply. At the same time, content criticizing league leadership exploded. Every attempt to fix the problem only exposed how out of touch leadership had become. While the public fight played out online, something deeper was happening behind closed doors. Inside locker rooms across the league, the real damage spread. Teams began splitting along lines that had nothing to do with basketball. Veterans who survived years of league politics clashed with younger players who refused to accept the old rules. Silence versus rebellion. Loyalty to institutions versus loyalty to the truth, according to sources close to multiple teams. The atmosphere turned toxic fast. Players who once laughed together before games now whispered in corners. Eye contact felt loaded. Trust crumbled as everyone tried to figure out who supported the status quo and who was ready to push back. This stopped being about one benching. It became about the entire culture of how athletes were treated. Then the stories started coming out. Former players who left the league years ago began sharing their own experiences. Being silenced, being overlooked, being punished for speaking honestly. Each story added weight to what Sophie and Lexi had already exposed. This wasn't a one-off. This was how things had worked for years. The difference now was that someone finally said it out loud. Reports surfaced that players from several teams were communicating privately. Conversations off the record, away from official channels. Under pressure to stay quiet, a coalition was forming. Athletes who felt failed by leadership. Players who believed accountability was the only way forward. The league wasn't dealing with two outspoken players anymore. It was facing the reality that its entire workforce might stop accepting conditions they'd tolerated for far too long. Then came the moment no one expected. Just as the controversy seemed stuck in a tense stalemate, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull returned together. Not with tweets, not with cryptic posts. With a joint interview, broadcast live across major sports networks, they broke every unwritten rule. No prepared statements, no careful phrasing, no corporate language designed to protect relationships. They sat side by side, looked straight into the cameras, and delivered a warning that couldn't be softened or spun. The era of silence was over. Sophie spoke first. Calm voice, heavy words. If this is how you treat the player who helped build your league, then no one is safe. The room went still. Reporters froze mid-note. Pens hovered. Nobody rushed to speak because the message landed too hard to ignore. This wasn't about defending one teammate anymore. It was about exposing a system capable of targeting anyone who became inconvenient, anyone who gained too much influence, anyone whose voice threatened control. Sophie wasn't criticizing a decision. She was calling out a culture. Lexi followed without hesitation, never breaking eye contact with the camera. We've been told to stay quiet for too long. Not anymore. That was the line in the sand. The declaration rippled through locker rooms across the league. Players watching at home knew exactly what they were seeing. Two athletes with everything to lose, deciding truth mattered more than comfort. Solidarity over safety. Accountability over silence. From that moment on, nothing inside the league felt the same. Speaking honestly comes with consequences. But staying silent while injustice plays out makes you complicit. And that was something they refused to accept any longer. Clips from the interview moved faster than anything Sophie or Lexi had ever said before. Within hours, the footage pulled millions of views across every platform. Commentators called it one of the most honest moments in WNBA history. The authenticity was undeniable. These weren't athletes reading scripts. These were players who had hit a breaking point and chose transparency over protection. NBA players jumped in almost immediately, amplifying the clips with clear support. Even rival WNBA stars who had stayed quiet began liking and reposting the video. Some added short captions like "finally" or "say it louder," small words. Massive meaning. What began as one controversy started to feel like a collective awakening. In the days that followed, the movement leveled up fast. Fans didn't just react. They organized. Coordinated campaigns targeted sponsors directly, demanding accountability and urging them to publicly choose a side. Independent outlets run by former athletes stepped in, publishing deep investigations into league politics, quiet punishments, and careers that mysteriously stalled. Stories long buried resurfaced. The spotlight that once focused on a single benching now exposed years of executive decisions leadership hoped would stay hidden. Sophie and Lexi were no longer just outspoken teammates. They became symbols of resistance, proof that players could challenge institutional power and survive it. Their willingness to take risks gave others permission to speak. The league now faced a choice it never planned for: acknowledge the culture being exposed and commit to real change, or double down on silence and watch control slip away as more players decided. They had nothing left to lose. The warning had been delivered. Players were done asking for permission to be treated fairly, done accepting fear as policy, done pretending silence protected anything worth saving. If the league wouldn't defend its athletes, the athletes would defend each other. And the women leading that defense made one thing unmistakably clear: they were no longer afraid of the consequences. The league believed silence could bury the truth, that removing a star would go unnoticed, that control would always overpower outrage. They were wrong. The voices of Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull ignited a reckoning that won't be erased. A spark spreading through locker rooms, boardrooms, and broadcasts alike. Fans are watching. Sponsors are watching. And the players who built this game are watching too. Now the question isn't whether change is coming. It's whether the league adapts before it loses the very stars who made it impossible to ignore.